Hey everybody. So there has been a light delay on the next couple of episodes of the podcast, but for good reason. As you know, for the last 6 months I've been in this program called Leadership Seacoast. It's this experience-based series of seminars and small group meetings and discussions. You've already heard one of my classmates, Sarah Reitzman, on the show, and you'll be hearing from others very soon. It was an incredible program, a life-changing and reorienting thing. I applied for it back in October. Arlo was 9 months old, and I had just done episodes of the show like An Improved System, where I was trying to articulate this new and nebulous desire that I had to do more for my community. When I heard about Leadership Seacoast, it felt like the perfect next step, but I was certain that I would not get in. I mean, what do I really have to recommend me other than steady employment and a decade of odd and assorted creative projects and like a little bit of volunteering for the United Way? Somehow they let me into the program anyway, and I got to meet a diverse group of really incredible people, most of whom already were where I wanted to be someday, in terms of community engagement and knowledge. I was intimidated, but I got over my anxieties pretty quickly, and I looked forward to each program day, and I deeply enjoyed each one. So at the end of one of our final class days, we filled out an evaluation, and one of the sections was about nominating a class speaker for our graduation. It did not occur to me at all that anyone would nominate me. I was talking to one of my classmates, Jen, and she offhandedly mentioned that she'd nominated me, and I was totally gobsmacked and flattered by it. And then I found out she wasn't the only one. Being told by our director, Lori, that I'd been chosen for my class was such an incredible culmination of my experience at Leadership Seacoast, and I will remember that moment very fondly for my whole life. But then, I actually had to write it, which is why the podcast episode I teased last time isn't done yet. But I thought I would play you the audio of the speech from last night because the themes in it certainly pertain to what we started talking about on here, and also just because it meant so much for me to be able to perform it. It was a huge night. My mom and stepdad Bill were there, Christy was there, my boss Wanda was there. In fact, the entire senior staff of my company was there for me and my classmate and coworker Elaine. The COO of my company was buying my mom and Bill drinks. It was really fun. Anyway, I'll warn you, the audio is a little rough. There's some physical business in there. There's a part where I present a giant check, and there's a part where I play the cowbell, and a bunch of my classmates start playing various percussive instruments. That stuff might have been a you had to be there kind of thing, but I think most of it would be fun for you to hear. I'm going to put a transcript of the speech in the show notes in case some of it's difficult to make out. It probably will be. So anyway, more episodes soon. Have a good day.
Each year, as the program draws to a close, the class is asked to nominate someone to speak on their behalf. The class of 2019 has overwhelmingly selected Zachary Little to represent them. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Zach now.
Okay, hi, I'm Zach Little. Let me just start. Hello, hi, hello. Let me just start by saying what a total mind-blowing honor it was to have been selected by my classmates to speak on their behalf. I already told them this once in private, so they know I wasn't just doing it to endear myself to the alumni, but it bears repeating to endear myself to the alumni, so total honor. Class of 2019, it's no exaggeration to say that I consider all of you to be superior human beings to me. I mean, your career accomplishments, your charitable activities, your personalities. I was legitimately intimidated when I started reading each of the bios in our little binder, especially because mine was just like me drinking an iced latte and making jokes about my dog. But you all absolutely lived up to the hype and the multi-hyphenates, and that's why I felt so shocked, but also very validated and accepted to be chosen. And I don't know if I ever mentioned my dog once, like even during a small group or something. Yeah, her name's Shoshana, she's a demon. The less said about her, the better. We're not here to talk about my dog, luckily. We are here to look back on our experience these last 6 months and to look ahead to where we're going now. So, It all started at the Brown Center for the opening retreat, and I gotta say, I always thought like I knew a thing or two about team training activities. I've done it, you know, I've been around the block a little, I got some game. Or at least I thought I had some game. It turns out I have absolutely no game because Bill from the Brown Center knocked me out with all of his like Jedi mind tricks. Do you remember the activity where you keep a familiar person between yourself and someone who is unfamiliar? And I don't know if the alumni did this, but you should definitely try it the next time you're 5 hours into meeting 40 new people. I was trying to think about it. Outside of Lucian Seacoast, maybe like a hostage situation at a grocery store. Something to keep in mind. But, so this is what you do. This is how the activity works. You stand in a big circle, and you look across and you find someone who is familiar and someone who is not. You don't say it out loud. Nobody knows who picks who. Like all the best games, most of this happens in your mind. So, Fred, where's Fred? Fred was my familiar guy. Oh, it's right here, Fred. That's me and Fred's secret handshake. Fred and I were on the puzzle team together, so we were already bros for life. And Bridget was my unfamiliar. Luckily, Bridget, that would change. But at the time, she was my unfamiliar. So anyway, you pick your two people across the way. And the whole idea is you got to keep your familiar person between you and the unfamiliar person. So as people start moving away from the circle, it's just total chaos. Like it's like a game of tag where no one's it, but also everyone's it. So that's happening for a while. And then Bill, this master of his craft, Bill, he flips the script. He says, okay, you have to keep the unfamiliar person between you and your familiar person. When that happens, all the people that have been scattered across the room suddenly like gather together like this big mass, like we were magnetized. It's as a physical exercise, it was just a cool like effect. Like wow, look, here we are, all next to each other. As a visual metaphor, it's even better. Because when we shield ourselves with familiar people and places, the community is disparate, chaotic, disorganized. When we reach out to someone new, when we step out of our comfort zone, the community very quickly becomes unified, close-knit. Maybe a little too close for people who need their personal space, but undoubtedly stronger. So, feeling warmed and inspired by this, we met Peter Francis, who told us about how we're all going to die. Okay. Not about how we're all going to die. It wasn't that bad. He just wanted to warn us about our state's swiftly aging population, how these trends would, collapse the economy, annihilate property values, and give rise to blood harvesting robots. So we've got that to look forward to. Demographic doomsaying aside, in his talk, Peter highlighted something that turned out to be very important for virtually every session that followed, which I guess we could politely call the structural shortcomings of our dear Granite State. I mean mostly that there's no money, but also, how our stubborn independence creates an unwieldy number of local fiefdoms and gerontocracies instead of something more streamlined and cost-effective or efficient or whatever. I also mean that. Live free or die, right? Maybe both. Because from the opening retreat onward, at each program day, we were brought face to face with the open space between people in need and the available services. Every time we saw a problem over here with an apparent solution over there, but no obvious funding or state mechanism to connect them. Nowhere was that more clear than on Health and Human Services Day. The scope and seriousness of the addiction epidemic in New Hampshire can't be overstated. And we learned to call it an addiction epidemic and not an opioid epidemic because it's not new and it's far from over. And yet, I found myself so inspired to meet the people that were working against it. Capable, confident, dedicated individuals from all walks of life. And most importantly, there were so many of them. There were so many people, so many organizations voluntarily filling in the gap between the problem and the solution. So next up was Economic Development Day, and almost every single member of the class that I've talked to expressed some anxiety about this. They were intimidated by the subject. Economic development, was there going to be math? Seriously, everybody in this class, even those of us who work for banks, we're all right-brained, touchy-feely types, Even Josh is. Josh, you're the football coach that I wish I had. Seriously. Anyway, economic development wasn't so bad, was it? We all left that day excited about our community, very well caffeinated, and wondering which place we should move to, Somersworth or into a Macy's. Let me explain that. Eric Schimberg, he told us that big box stores are the mill buildings of the future. People are no longer shopping at malls, right? So you might as well put apartments there. That might sound crazy to you, but buy Sarah Reitzman a drink, she will tell you why it's not so crazy. I love the idea, if only for the rich joke potential. You guys hear about Oliver's new apartment? Oh, he finally moved out of that dusty old studio and moved into a beautiful Ann Taylor loft. Natural light. You guys hear about the developer? He wanted to put 5 affordable units in his new building. Unfortunately, due to cost overruns, he's down to 1 Payless. If you can think of some more good ones, let me know after this, because I'm working on my stand-up set for the next Workforce Housing Coalition meeting. You know, that was a joke when I started writing the speech, but it's actually becoming more real, it turns out. Okay, so I connect with science more than I thought I did. I learned that at Environment Day. I never thought of myself as a science guy, nor did my chemistry teacher in high school, but I guess I am. True story, the only reason I passed that class is because he broke both his legs in a skiing accident and he was out for like half the semester. We watched a lot of DVDs of the Eagles. Anyway, but I really connected with what people like Cameron Wake had to say, which is why I no longer sleep at night. But I will say, if you have to learn about catastrophic climate change, it's best to be somewhere as beautiful as Odiorn. Because, I mean, worst case scenario, everything looks like Odiorn, right? Sorry. That's the darkest joke in here, I promise. So being a person who connects with science now, and with a couple of program days behind me, I started to put all these pieces together, and I started to see better the gaps between the need and the resources, between the economic development and the education, between the government and the environment, and I started to think of the state of New Hampshire itself as a kind of organism. And I first thought of this metaphor at one of the Margaritas meetings, by the way, and I think it's pretty solid. I wanted to give a disclaimer, and then a shout out to Margaritas, the unofficial program sponsor of So the state of New Hampshire is like a plant. It's like a plant that grows too close to the ground to get any sun. The sunlight in this metaphor is tax revenue, like the stem of the plant. It's too weak to stand up on its own. It needs to add like an income tax or something to make more chlorophyll. I swear to God, this metaphor tracks eventually. Just bear with me here. We are a plant and we grow too close to the ground, but instead of shriveling up and dying, over time we've evolved this vast, far-flung network of little leaves pushing their way out into the sun that keep the plant alive despite its shortcomings. Every single person that we met at every program day is one of those leaves. Out there on their own, pushing toward the light, finding a gap and filling it. I'm talking about like the incredible and dedicated people we met from groups like Hope on Haven Hill and Seacoast Family Promise, as well as people like Terry Robinson. This guy who came to Portsmouth by way of Louisiana on the strength of his fashion career and is now working with the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail and is still somehow only 19 years old? What? A gap in the education of Seacoast kids of color, a gap that is invisible to most of us, and he's filling it now. What about Anna Brown and Jacqueline Benson? That was the dynamic duo from Citizens Count. They were great. They're like a walking West Wing episode. I could listen to them explain the nuances of the New Hampshire legislative system all day. It might take me all day to understand it, but that's why they're working so hard. Emmett Soldati, he talked to us about the need for gathering spaces in the community. In Somersworth, he saw a gap and he filled it himself by opening Teetotaler, which is a really special place. Where once, there was a void, now there's Kirsten Gillibrand watching a teen drag show. That's pretty good, That's quite the change. That's a lot of light for one leaf. That's also how a lot of us felt about, let that loud for a second, sorry. That's also how a lot of us felt about Justin Roy, the principal of Spalding High School. A lot of light for one leaf. From where is this guy finding energy? I don't know. On Education Day, he very appropriately gave us a lot to think about. How we felt about the education we got, however long ago it was, how much this system might need to change going forward, how much it would take to change it, and whether or not we have the stomach for that. Education reform is a grand and consequential experiment, and the laboratory is right there in Rochester. Speaking of experiments, Justice Day certainly was that. So down at Stratford County Correctional, we're very lucky to have an administration in place that recognizes addiction for what it is, a medical issue. And we've heard from some people working very hard to turn their lives around, but they're funding these programs at Stratford County with money they're getting from ICE to house undocumented immigrants. The jail superintendent, Chris Brackett, he told us he doesn't know where these people came from, what they did, if anything, and where they're going next. So this is a tough thing to contemplate, this trade-off, but we can't look the other way, so don't. The most remarkable part of Justice Day happened at the end, and it came from within the group itself. John and Carrie and Christine and Tim and Josh, members of our own class who have come at criminal justice reform in their own ways, in their own fields, they led a spirited but respectful discussion about everything we just seen. And I learned way too much from that day to even try to relate here, but more than anything, I felt grateful for your perspectives. I felt grateful for all of your perspectives across every program day, every small group, every chance encounter in the wild. May there be many more. And I'm grateful for Lori for carving out a big block of time on Justice Day to let something like that unfold. Can we just get another round of applause for Lori Walston? I'll be honest, we're kind of an unwieldy group. We're a little rowdy. We get cranky when we don't have snacks. And she managed us. Yeah, we got plenty of caffeine, so that's good. But might have made the anxiety worse. She managed us with aplomb and also with these little chimes that she would ring and get us to shut up. So, speaking of which, some of us were thinking, the chimes are great and all, very final Shavasana, but maybe you would like some variety for the class of 2020. So, I have some stuff. Jay Dennett made this bag for you, by the way. Oh, the bag. Yeah, very cool. I'm going to have you all just talk amongst yourselves for a second, okay? And I'm going to try to bring you back to focus with that item in this bag. Okay, so I will give you a topic. How would you have changed the Game of Thrones finale? Go! Okay, that's great. We're going to do it one more time. More controversial topic this time. Does a hot dog count as a sandwich? Yes or no? Up after, you can bring each one. Try every time. We do have some good ones. I really like the maracas because it's like, ooh, what are we going to learn about? Are we going to learn about PFOA contamination? Or are we going to do some salsa dancing? Speaking of salsa dancing, Erica Mansley, come up here for a second. We took some lessons together after Arts and Culture Day, so we're going to do a little demonstration. Just kidding. Here we go. Erica was kind enough to collect donations from the class. So Lori, we'd like to present this to you, for the photo op. Yeah, thank you so much to the class for contributing this. What do we do now? My dog, we covered that. New Hampshire is a plant that grows too close to the ground, we covered that. Webster's dictionary defines leadership as, I don't think we need that. Secret hand gesture for Fred, we did that. Webster's Dictionary defines seacoast as... No, we don't need that. Okay. Here we go. What do we do now? I think for a minute there, maybe about halfway through the program, that became sort of the overwhelming question on everybody's minds. What do we do after all of this? Everything we're learning, everything we're seeing, all the need, all the problems, climate change, local government, single-use plastics, homelessness. Oh my God, where do we start? And then it became less of a worry because we were already starting. Everywhere across the group it was happening. Elaine went back to work after Health and Human Services Day in January and pretty much immediately directed a $2,400 donation to Seacoast Family of Promise. We both work for LTC Partners, and she had that money from our company's annual holiday basket raffle. Elaine's department always makes the best basket. They win every year. It's a little annoying, but you know, I had to concede it was going to a good cause. Kareem immediately went out and signed up to be a cuddler at Hope on Haven Hill. Fred went to one of Sarah's workshops, and he learned all the cool affordable housing lingo like NIMBY and CAVE and banana. Banana's my personal favorite. Banana is someone who would like to build absolutely nothing, anywhere near anything. You get it. There's a lot of A's and N's in there. Banana. Kelly is starting a new Hampshire volunteer chapter for Wells Fargo. Whitney joined the board for Marsha's Hospice Health Foundation. The list goes on. And our class Facebook page has been lighting up on a daily basis with volunteer opportunities and events. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't need to tell you where to start. We've already started. It's already happening. But keep starting, please. Keep in touch. Keep an eye on what others are doing. Keep an eye out for the kind of gaps you can fill or you think one of us might be able to fill instead. Think about the space that other people in this class are already occupying, have been occupying for years, and keep thinking about how you can help them. And tell other people what they're doing and what you're doing. Don't be shy about it. I mentioned earlier the validation and the acceptance that I felt when you all picked me to be your speaker. Acceptance in particular, acceptance by teams, is something that I had in short supply for most of my life. I was never a star athlete. I think I finished school right before phys ed teachers got the memo that having kids pick their own teams was cruel and unusual punishment. I've actually told plenty of you that at the opening retreat, I really resisted getting involved in some of the activities because of their resemblance to team sports. Like, oh, no. Class of 2019, I just want to say, I'm so happy to be on your team. I'm so excited to see what we're doing already and what we'll do next. And, if you ever get stuck, look to your left, look to your right, and, if you're sitting on the end, look like the person behind you and the person in front of you. You get what I'm saying? Look to each other. Look to each other. Keep helping each other, help others, grow the team, fill the gaps. There will be no shortage of opportunities in a state like this, with an alumni network like this, with a team like this. So thank you, Lori Waltz-Gagnon. Thank you to the board, to the program sponsors. Thank you to my wife and my mom and my boss for all coming. But most of all, thank you, class of 2019.